You know, we all run into career potholes. I know I have. And some potholes we create for ourselves. Some potholes others create for us. But what I'd like to share with you today is some insight from this book. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. Highly recommend it to my clients. It's a great read. He's very entertaining. And Goldsmith is a PhD and an executive coach who has worked with many of the world's top CEOs. And that experience has helped him recognize the habits that we all have that create career potholes for us. But I have a question for you. So how many of you would agree that Tiger Woods is over-competitive? Raise your hand. You know, moving beyond the healthy competition into the unhealthy competition. Or as they say, winning when it counts versus winning when no one's counting. The reality is winning too much is not healthy when it's winning at all costs, at all times, in all situations. So you don't have to raise your hand now, but how many of you would do the same thing that I do? You know, if you'd just listened to me, we wouldn't have had these problems. That's what happens. The reality is our urge to win trumps our common sense. We know what we should say and shouldn't say, but we just can't resist the temptation. But what we're talking about is that unhealthy competition. And the problem is sometimes they bleed over, don't they? And when you're in an environment where you've achieved some success, and I'm sure all of you have, then the reality is we're all guilty of this because we're obsessed with winning. It's also our culture, our overall culture, at least in the US. I mean, we do it every day, whether we're talking about where to go to dinner, and I want to win that argument, and I want to be right, or whether it's figuring out which lane at the grocery store is moving faster so I can switch. The second pothole for today is adding too much value. And this is really that can't resist putting your 2 cents in. I think some of you mentioned that when you were describing the people who have to win too much. Again, this is connected. So it's that, you know, they just can't resist giving you their opinion. You know, I have a client who is usually the smartest person in the room. So when she gets her team together and they're brainstorming, guess what happens? She can't resist that temptation to give them her opinion, to tell them what she thinks. But what do you think happens when those people walk out of the room, the meeting is concluded, and they're now going to go execute or implement whatever they've agreed to? How excited are they about that? Not very. It's not their idea. It's her idea. It happens to us all the time, whether we're team leads or whether we're part of a team. So moving on to number 3. All right, how many of you watched the royal wedding? Anybody? Anybody get up at 4:30 in the morning? I DVR'd it. I didn't get up at 4:30 in the morning. But so what were we excited? We couldn't wait to see the dress. Why did we want to see the dress? What were we going to do the minute we started seeing the dress? What were all the commentators doing? Pick. Tear it apart, right? They didn't have much bad to say, but we didn't know until we saw it, right? It could have looked like Princess Di with the poofy sleeves. But you know, women are really good at comparing ourselves to each other. We excel at that. And whether we're royalty or whether we are commoners, we don't like to be judged. We don't want to be critiqued. And if we feel like people are judging us, it really pushes us away from them. It doesn't make us very likely to help them either. I have a client who is in a really tough situation. He doesn't feel like he's been judged fairly by his boss or his colleagues, and he's sort of stuck. Unfortunately, he can't go look for another job because he's got health issues in his family. But basically, we've just been working with him on how to survive because he doesn't trust his boss, he doesn't respect his boss. So any help that he's offering is coming only out of obligation or fear. So we've been talking a lot about judging other people, and it's certainly our human nature. We're wired that way. I mentioned earlier about, you know, it makes us not want to help other people when we feel like we're being judged. So just want to offer a suggestion for you. If you find that perhaps you lean toward this tendency, then the challenge would be try staying neutral for a week. If someone's offering you a suggestion in the spirit of being helpful, try just say thanks. Or if you can't do that, just say thanks, I hadn't considered that. And then at the end of the week, look back and see how many pointless arguments you avoided. Because if you're not judging an idea or a suggestion, then nobody can argue with you. You're not agreeing with it, you're just saying thank you for that. And if you decide to take this further and make a habit of it, that saying thanks will become as automatic as saying bless you when somebody sneezes. And then over time, what will happen is people will begin to see you as a more agreeable person, even if you're not actually agreeing with them. And they'll also begin to come to you and start bouncing ideas off of you. It changes the whole nature of how you interact with other people when they don't feel like you're judging every time they interact with you. Male, female, all the above. So, I don't know about you, but I want you all to think that I'm as smart as Elena Kagan, our newest Supreme Court Justice. And if I'm not sure you do think I'm that smart, then I'll just have to tell you. And I might do that by saying, you know, I already knew that when you tell me something. Or I might do that impatient head nodding thing when you're talking to me because I'm ready for you to be done. You know anybody like that? What I'm really saying to you when I make those gestures or, you know, do the head nodding or the yes, I already knew that, I'm really saying to you that you clearly have me confused with somebody who's not very smart. And I didn't need to know that information. You've totally wasted my time. Can you imagine if I said that to your face? That's really what I'm saying. But then you'd know I had a really big pothole that needed fixing. So do we respect people more who tell us how smart they are or show us how smart they are? What you just described is showing how smart you are. You don't have to tell me because I see it. You know, this is just another variation on winning too much. You guys are on target with that. And it's not just boasting, it's insulting. I'm going to give you a recommendation on how to deal with this, and I'm guilty of this as well. I think for a lot of women, I know for me, it comes from that place of I'm a little bit unsure of how smart you think I am. It's my lack of self-confidence, and that's my way of being sure that, you know, I'm projecting that I'm confident, and yeah, I already knew that. Really, it doesn't have that effect, but that's what we do, and we fall into that habit. So the solution for this, the fix for this pothole, is before you say anything, you just take a breath, you take a pause, and you think about whether what you're about to say is necessary at all. Step 2 is you conclude that it isn't, and step 3, you say thank you. Are you detecting a theme here?
Thank you.
Thank you. That doesn't mean I agree with you, doesn't mean I think you're right, but I clearly don't have to tell you how smart I am. If you're making a suggestion, if you're telling me something, thank you. Believe me, I have to work on this every day, and I don't have it figured out. So once we've identified our potholes, how do we confirm that it really is a problem? So let's just say we're best friends, and I come to you and I say, you know, I think I do that head nodding thing when people are talking because I'm impatient. So would you be willing to tell me if it were a problem? Yeah. And so if I said, I really want your help solving this. So if it's just you and me talking, would you just kind of go, hey, Cheryl, you're nodding your head at me again. But if we're in a group, you know, I don't want to be embarrassed, and so just tug on your ear for me, and that'll be my cue that I need to stop nodding my head. Would you be willing to do that? Usually the people who are closest to us, if we were best friends, are going to be honest with you. They're going to want to help you, but you have to tell them how to help you. So as I said, asking others for help, asking for their input, being very specific about how you want them to help you, and then following up. So if I came back and said, how am I doing on that head nodding thing? Would you be willing to tell me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're close and she cares about how I'm doing, she's going to be willing to let me know that. You know, when you follow up with people, when I go back to my 360 participants for my clients and I ask how they're doing, every time they say, you know, I can tell she's really working on it. And it means a lot to people that you're trying to change, you're trying to get better. It also helps you know that you can change. You know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not going to happen overnight. So it's important to check back, follow up, see how things are going, and ask for that real-time feedback. A lot of times I'll suggest to my clients, you know, if it's the head nodding, whatever it is, you know, if we're going into a meeting, so do me a favor, we're going to go into this meeting. Let me know how I'm doing on the head nodding thing if I don't catch the ear tug. Let's just take 2 minutes right after the meeting and tell me how I did. So the more we can get that in the moment, we don't forget about it. They don't forget about it. We're not asking them a week later when she can't remember what she did in the meeting, much less what I did in the meeting. All right. Thanks for your time today. I hope you have an opportunity to identify some potholes that you want to correct, because once you identify them and fix them, it makes for a much smoother road on the way to career success.